What's up, everyone? Welcome to Bilbrons and Dragons. I'm your host, Bilbron DaoLockStone. So today we're having another battle report for my Molebron DaoLockStone build, which I've been playing on a Westmarch server called the Forged Concordance. And it's really amazing. I love it there. Great games, great DMs, great rule system, very well organized and maintained. So highly recommended. All of the relevant information will be in the video description below. Check it out and we can adventure together. So today's adventure was called Cooking Up That Good Voodoo, Gold version, run by DM the 22. And he did a great job, as I knew he would, because I actually played this game a long time ago. I think it was like my 6th adventure or something, way back when I was only 3rd level. And for the record keeping, I am 12th level now. So it's been a minute. And I was excited to go meet Bone Brotha again and go through this replayable scenario, but this time at a much higher power level. I got the gig. I mean, the story starts as it always does, with Bilbron flying in from Viscala, stopping in Haroon, check in with Novus Dacia and the goings on in Mydath, and then onto the job board at the TFC HQ looking for a gig. And I got the Bone Brotha gig, had to assemble a team, just 4 guys. So I added Donk, who's a half-orc barbarian. I consider him one of my best friends in the TFC world, and so I was very happy to adventure with Donk again, because it had been a minute with him as well. I've had several adventures with him, but the most recent one was Skyrider Grand Prix, so hadn't actually fought with him in some time. There was Icaros, who was a half-elf Sorlock, and then there was Keylor, who was a half-elf Fiendlock. And Keylor was one of only 3 pure warlocks on the server, myself being one of them, and then my friend Idik, who is a Meridlock, being the other. So pretty rare to see a pure warlock. It's pretty tempting to add that sorcerer or even fighter dip. But that was the team, and I felt pretty excited because we had some good battles in my last adventure with Bone Brotha, and I was looking forward to getting some, getting my hands dirty, so to speak, because I just had so many non-combat missions recently. But as it turns out, the role-playing was quite exceptional in this game. I'd forgotten how good the 22 is at that sort of thing, but I was quickly reminded because we had to get to Bone Brotha. So the whole context of this was that Bone Brotha was hiring TFC to guard him in his little swamp hut as he mixes up this brew, because once he starts this ritual, he has to keep stirring the pot, and in the process sometimes magical stuff occurs and portals open up and bad guys pour out, or in the process someone might just come up to him in the swamp, because he lives in an environment at a community, and he just needed us to deal with it while he maintains the stirring of the pot, because if not, something bad is going to happen. Always some kind of world-shattering event that we don't want to see occur if he were to stop stirring the pot. So we had to get over there, which was a pretty long journey and required ship's passage. So we very quickly made it to Tears Fall, right at the docks, because there was like a magic thingy-mabobber involving a huge raven that would swoop down and engulfed us in blackness, and then we opened our eyes, and then we were at the dock. And it did make me think, gosh, if we're teleporting, why not just teleport to the hut? I was a little surprised by that. I kind of expected to see Bone Brotha when I opened my eyes again, but we were at the docks of Tears Fall, and we had to get a ship, but we were right there in front of the longboat with Captain Johnny Longbow, ready to take us to see Bone Brotha. And in the process, we encountered a bunch of ducks, and some of my party are nature lovers and were able to cast Speak with Animals, and so started conversing with these ducks. And it turns out these ducks are pretty devious. They actually had a plan for world domination going, involving a gigantic kaiju duck, literally the size of Viscala, the biggest city around here. So a lot more drama occurring around the ducks than I had expected. Captain Longbow Johnny had a cat named Fluffy that I remembered from our previous mission that we were instructed not to screw with the cat, and that my colleagues couldn't resist the temptation to screw with the cat, and all sorts of funny and negative shenanigans, occurred afterwards. So of course, going into this, I told all of my colleagues, I was like, oh yeah, you know what, you probably shouldn't mess with the cat. And of course, my colleagues had to mess with the cat, and so some funny and some negative shenanigans occurred, but nothing too debilitating. It was mostly entertaining, for sure. But yeah, that was the trip there. Quilor even made friends with the ducks because she was a very friendly sort, and a couple of the ducks for the rest of the adventure were carrying her around by the shoulders of her robe, and she had like a 10-foot fly speed for the whole thing. So that was pretty funny. And then we got dropped off, and we made our way from the shore to Bone Brotha's swamp and his little hut, and arrived. And the whole way I was not concerned at all, because this was about defending a fixed position in a swamp. And Bilbron's pretty good at that because he has Wall of Stone and a burrow speed. So I was talking to the team about making a fortification out of Wall of Stone that we could hide in, that had crenellations in it, then we could squeeze through it and large creatures couldn't, and yada yada. And I expected some resistance from Bone Brotha around it because of the fact that it's permanent and all of that, but I figured we would knock it down, clear it up. And then of course I had a burrow speed, because in the Forged Concordance, familiars get a little bit of a buff, and they've got like a long list of all the available familiars, and they all give you like a little something, like a +1 on your con saves, or a +1 on your initiative, or stuff like that. And one of them confers upon you a 5-foot burrow speed, and that's pretty powerful, right? I mean, even a 5-foot burrow, you conduct your action and then you move 5 feet under the ground and you're pretty safe. So that's a kind of ultimate defense that I like. No concentration, no investment, no actions, and overwhelmingly powerful. And so, I was pretty confident going in. But I'd never done a gold version, so maybe this stuff was going to be like super duper uber powerful. But there's also a lot of role-playing stuff going on. So it turns out we didn't actually have all that many combat encounters. The first encounter was a combat encounter. Bone Brotha started his brew. I created a fortification kind of off to the right, as you see, and then took up position on the far right to the north. And others took positions. I think Icaros was on the roof. And we, stood by while Bone Brotha got his ritual started. And pretty quickly, like 3 undead creatures crawled out of the pot and attacked, and it looked pretty hairy at first because they got a couple of good licks in on Bone Brotha, but man, they got obliterated. So Icaros is a Sorlock and has Quicken Spell and 3 Eldritch Blasts, so he immediately blasted one of these things down to 0. I mean, he's got like shards and stuff that did more damage, and did an impressive amount of damage in the first round and blew him up. And then Donk is a great weapon master barbarian and did a crazy amount of damage on his turn. So I basically threw in a piddly amount of damage on the first round, and then I never got another turn. All 3 of these things just got obliterated, by Icaros, Quilor, and Donk, and I didn't really have to do much. But then there was a second encounter, and this one was not a battle. It could have been. Some kind of undead warhorse appeared, Kenny, but Quilor made friends with it and, convinced it to allow us to ride it. And Bilbron did contribute here because Quilor managed to get on the good side of Kenny by promising to beautify him, and was coloring his armor and such. And Bilbron just happens to be a jeweler and have jeweler's tools, so I was able to bling him up a little bit, and Kenny really liked that, and he made friends, even let Bilbron ride on him, which was fun because I've always wanted to ride on a skeletal warhorse. So that combat was averted. Then the next combat was also averted, or next encounter, I should say. because it was one of those six-headed snake Hydra aberration Yuan Ti things that I fought very recently, and then some other kind of snake dude. And I wasn't looking forward to fighting these guys because the six-headed guy I knew was going to be really tough. But Keylor managed to avoid hostilities by talking to them in that charming way. And I was digging this, by the way, because I'm a big believer of talking first and trying to avoid unnecessary combats. And Bilbron is high charisma and can do that, but he's more of the evil, intimidating type. And so if I have to do all the talking, things can get, go downhill pretty quickly. And it's better to have someone to lead with some honey as opposed to me leading with vinegar. And then I could stay as a backup kind of bad cop dude in case the good cop part didn't go so well. And so this was perfect. So Keylor was handling that duty great and managed to talk to these reptilians. And it turns out that they were here to recover some artifact that Bone Brotha had stolen from them, a gemstone that was very valuable. And Keylor got them to accept a different gemstone that she had. And it had some crazy story attached to it that I guess made it unique enough to satisfy these reptilian dudes. And so they would say, awesome, thanks. And then they left. So go figure, I would have been hesitant to offer a fairly worthless trinket in exchange to satisfy some people who are here for revenge and to recover a powerful artifact, but whatever works. And it worked, and we avoided that encounter, having to fight in that encounter. Then the next encounter was with some kind of dark elves that had showed up, because as it turns out, Bone Brotha had stolen a different artifact from the Shadowlands called the Heart of Darkness. And apparently this thing is like key to their whole little demi-plane or something. And so they were really agitated with him and wanted to get it back. And so some smack-talking elf showed up with some backup. And once again, Keylor managed to convince them not to attack, because there was some parley and some accusations and role-playing and such that went off first. And then Keylor successfully convinced them with an epic persuasion roll that Bone Brotha was in the midst of a ritual, and if the ritual got interrupted, it had world-shattering implications. And so it's not our business. Feel free to, attack him later, but after the ritual. And they bought it. And so they slunk off and didn't come back until later, but we didn't have to fight them. So great, Keylor's doing great at the talking thing. We're definitely avoiding casualties, but I gotta say I was kind of hoping to fight a little something. And the ritual's almost over. So we'd gone through a couple of combats that we avoided because of Keylor's talking abilities. And I was hoping maybe for some kind of, aggro hostiles to show up at the end. But no, who shows up in the end? Caloria and her pet demon. And instead of attacking, Caloria starts haranguing Bone Brotha as her long-lost father and how angry she was at being a neglected child, and she was here to exact her revenge, and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, all right, here we go. Time to get it on. But once again, Keylor managed to talk her down. And I'm thinking, all right, maybe she's too good at talking. Again, on the argument that if Bone Brotha's ritual was interrupted, it would have world-shattering implications. And so, maybe they should hash this out after he finishes the ritual and we get paid and leave and, yada, yada, yada. And so we could have avoided combat there, but Bilbron finally came out, and Bilbron hadn't been saying anything up until now because I was, off hidden in my combat position, and I was depending on Keylor to do the talking, and I was only going to step in and talk if, things weren't going well on Keylor's end, which they never did go bad on her end. So I didn't have to come out, and I didn't actually encounter the Dark Elves or Caloria. But finally I came out to talk to Caloria and do some role-playing and flirt with her a little bit because she's totally Bilbron's type, right? Evil and all of that. So he tried to sweet-talk her a little bit, and she wasn't really having it, which is, it's fine. You win some, you lose some. But in the process of conversation, Bilbron did say, so, Cloria is not your true name, is it? Intentionally trying to get her to think of her true name, because I had attuned to my helm of telepathy. And so I was reading her surface thoughts. And, you don't technically get a saving throw versus surface thoughts, but because it was her true name, the 22 decided to give her one, but she failed it. And so I managed to get her true name through the helm of telepathy. And that's awesome. That felt really good, because that's how the helm of telepathy is supposed to work. It's supposed to be able to drag vital information out of people. And oftentimes DMs resist that a lot. But the 22 is a real chill DM. And I was noticing he was just rolling with what the players were doing throughout the entire adventure. And no different here. And so it was pretty cool, I thought, because once I had her true name and I telepathically repeated it to her so that she knew I knew her true name, she couldn't do anything. And she was super upset by it, of course. But I told her if she, acted up, I was going to reveal her true name to everybody, and a devil can't have that, right? So we could have got through it with no combat. But as I said, Bilbron was a little bit itching for some hostilities and wasn't impressed by anything that had shown up here so far. And so the Shadow Elves had come back, and Bilbron started talking a little bit of smack to them, and next thing you know, hostilities erupted. But once again, I had a super strong team with me. Donk went off for 121 damage in one round, and we pretty much shot those guys down to size pretty easily. And then more of the drama occurred afterwards, because Caloria had bailed and was like, screw this, and had released her demon from her service, and then we killed that thing real quick. But Bone Brotha was a little agitated with us at the end of it. I forget exactly why. Some kind of role playing thing. And I tried to salvage our good relations by sharing with him his daughter's true name, because he was really stressed about this. And I was like, well, at least her true name, and that way you can keep her under control, and she's not gonna mess with you too much. But he got really mad at me for this. Apparently he had feelings for her. Who knew? And he tried to mind wipe me, and I barely got away. I tried to dimension door, and he counterspelled me, and then I counterspelled his counterspell, and then he had two reactions, so he counterspelled my counterspell to his counterspell, but then Icaros counterspelled his counterspell to my counterspell to to his counterspell. But yeah, I managed to get away, and managed to resist another attempt by him later that day to try and erase my memory. But by then I, of course, told Tafargar, my familiar, and then I wrote it down because I knew what he's trying to do. And I also need that true name, right? Because she's really mad at me. And apparently she had just married some kind of powerful devil dude, right? In that kind of whole 9 hells weird hierarchy thing they got going on down there. And I didn't know, I don't need her showing up in my bedroom late at night and me not knowing her true name and keep her under control. So, yeah, anyway, a little bit of drama. I hope Bone Brotha's not too mad at me for that, but Bilbron definitely wasn't playing ball with getting his mind wiped. And with that, it was a successful mission. We got paid. We made it through with no casualties and really no danger of such, and had really great role playing. I really thought everybody did a great job, playing their characters and going through really cool scenarios, because one of the things that I appreciate about the 22's world is that all of the things that you do have repercussions, right? Like that whole duck thing was based on previous adventures, and that whole stealing the Heart of Darkness thing was from a previous adventure, and the whole stealing the gem from the reptilians was from another adventure. Right, so all of that stuff, came back, and I'm sure in the future, the stuff that I did with Caloria and sharing her true name with him is going to have an impact, and that's always cool, especially in a Westmarch server where it's hard to build that continuity of world and that story narrative, and the 22 did a great job. So, thanks so much to him for providing me this experience. Thanks so much to the team for helping me get through it, and thank you so much for watching. This has been Bilbrons and Dragons. I'm your host, Bilbron DaoLockStone. See you next time.